So when you quit college, what did you end up doing straight away?
Well, okay. I had a couple of acts that I was working with that I was managing, and at the time, Philly was, started popping. Philly was getting a buzz. You had like producers and stuff, everything. This is slightly before the neo soul movement. So, to give you an example, who we were performing with, As Yet.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like we was doing show after show after show. This is before Mark Nelson was in the group, because Mark Nelson didn't come. I mean, I think they got signed and they put Mark Nelson in the group.
That was the case. Yeah. But who were you managing? Who were you managing when?
These were acts that you're gonna laugh at this. What happened? Hiram Hicks, that managed Belle Biv DeVoe and Road Managed New Edition on the Heartbreak time. We had a holding deal with his H Records that was on Warner Brothers. So like I said, it was a lot of almost and things like that. But
okay,
being 18, 19 years old and this stuff happening, and I didn't have to use nobody's name or anything, Yeah, so it was man, listen, I was making little moves, and then I was, I started getting heavy on the pictures and stuff. I remember we were one time we were in DC, and I remember I had these press kits that I put together, and I run into D from Low Key and Jelly Bean from The Time.
Okay.
Now Jelly Bean is he did Supernatural for New Edition, Crucial on the Eddie Heartbreak album. Supernatural was on the Ghostbusters soundtrack. And he did Crucial on the Eddie Heartbreak album. It was one of my favorite songs, but that's, he was the drummer for The Time. Jelly Bean Johnson's like 6'7". That guy is big.
Wow.
So he looks at it, he's like, yo, who put this together? I'm like, I did. You know what I mean? He was like, yo, look. And then him and D was like, they gave me the address to Flight Time in Edina, Minnesota, and the lady to talk to and everything like that. So I took, and and he was like, just in case, before we get back or whatever like that, send this to her, tell her, So we was, I was shipping product out to them. I sent the stuff to Hiram, and I remember I was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he called me. He beat me. We had the pages back then.
Yeah, pages. Yeah.
He said, "It's a Hiram." I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? He was like, Hiram Hicks. I was like, really now? He was like, hey, look, I like the kid. I need to meet you tomorrow. We went down there. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. We had no more shows, nothing to set up. We had to wait. Unfortunately, what happened was there was a group called Good to Go. There was these, I think there were like 4 white girls. Warner Brothers, they decided to go with them first. They failed miserably, and there was no second try or nothing. That was that. Yeah.
Wow.
So such is life. But I started circulating, doing little promotional work for A&M Records in the Mid-Atlantic region. I started working my way up to New York, and then I run into Left Eye. Started doing some work when she had Left Eye Productions, and like I said, Black was the group that came out of that. I was around, all that in the beginning.
But what are you doing at this time? Because are you not filming?
I started getting heavy on the photography.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had to do something that I had to rely on me, and couldn't wait on anybody else's feelings or things like that. Because I started to notice as the years are going by, if somebody was coming with me, I'll be waiting on them. You show up late, that's a wasted opportunity, missed opportunity. I ain't go, so I said, whatever I do has to be relying on me. Now I was managing artists that when they decide they don't want to sing no more, they don't want to do this anymore, well, guess who got that studio bill still? Me. So, I had to do something that was going to be me, and me responsible for me. And that's how that happened. And so everybody used to always call me Wonder Boy Troy and stuff like that. Because it happened because the only reason why I really started taking pictures was because I was always saying to myself, nobody's going to believe this.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I was always like, nobody's going to believe this. So I would take pictures and, that's
what were you doing with your pictures when you take them? Were you just saving them?
I had this big photo album, and I used to leave it at Wanye's studio. So people would call me up and be like, hey, can I get this? And, then I started selling the pictures. Then I started, what was the next move? Kango, God rest his soul, from UTFO.
Yeah.
We were friends like he was legitimately like a brother, like a straight up brother. I met him in 1992. And we just hit it off, man. I met him and his wife over a friend of mine that I went to school with house. And Wanye was there that night. And I got this picture of us three together and everything like that. But me and Kango, we just kept in touch. I would go up there, hang out for the weekend. He'd be in the studio working with, with whoever, because he went, during UTFO, after UTFO, and whatever, he was producing Whistle and, a lot of other acts. And I would go up there. So one day I bought the a photo album with me. And he saw some of these pictures. He was like, yo, man, you need to submit these to, such and such here. This is the guy from Black Beat Magazine. His name was Rudy. I can't remember his last name. Forgive me. And I started doing that. Then, it started with that, this magazine called One Nut in Connecticut. And then Black Beat, Right On. Then Vibe, Source. So, and I happen to be the guy who was just everywhere at all times. Like that's, like I said, hence the thing, Wonder Boy, Wonderful Troy, but I became so great. Like people would just see me like, oh, let him in. He's good. He's cool.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I see that with a guy called Johnny Nunez. I see how.
Yeah, he was New York,
Yeah.
and strictly like in a lot of like heavy hip hop. Then you have, oh man, I don't want to mess up this, but there's him, and there's a lot of people, and they were heavy into hip hop, strictly hip hop. I was sports, comedy, music, all facets of it.
But at that time, did you think that being a celebrity, paparazzi, how they look, but
whoa, not
a paparazzi, but celebrity.
I had relationships, so they trusted me, and I ain't never been crazy. And I worked for some scandalous people, and I worked for some great people, controversial people. But I was straight up.
Yeah, but then at this time, because you were saving the pictures and put them in an album. Where was the money coming from before Kango Kid told you about getting this sold out? What were you still?
Oh no. He told me, he put me onto the magazines. He actually plugged me in to the magazines.
Oh no, but prior to him telling you this though, how were you surviving this hanging out?
Oh, listen. I would get hired. And I would just, and it was funny because my son was real little at the time. I'd bring it with me, but I would get hired. Man, the radio stations, would listen, some trusted by file call me everywhere man, but I was legitimately everywhere man. I worked every weekend religiously, and I would make enough money on the weekend. I didn't have to work during the week.
Oh.
I would take jobs here and there, but it was not a necessity, and things like that. It was like I would work for the two black radio stations in Philadelphia, Power 99, and then WDS, then corporate mergers, they was together, but then 100.3 or 103.9 came along. Yeah, I was.
And they'll send you to events, take the pictures, and what would they do?
Right. I was the event photographer, not just the thing. And then people come in, they see me, but they always feel comfortable because it was me. Like I started working with Gerald Levert in 92. Like I legitimately was in awe when I met him. I met him and Mark and Sean at the same time, but I told you I'm gonna work with you one day. And he just did that. Yes, you are. You know what I mean? Yes, you are, little guy. You're gonna work with me one day. And my first gig was Minute Large Use Me video.
So what were you doing? Were you actually shooting the video? Or?
No, I worked on a set. I worked on that set. I had worked at this place called Metropolis. It's not there anymore. It's called Metropolis Studios in Philly. And I had gotten so cool with the people and this company. When you made the comment the other day about Hype Williams, and I said Classic Concepts. Well, Lionel C. Martin.
Yeah.
I used to watch those videos that he used to do, and I used to be like, "Yo, that's how I want to do it." And actually, I'm walking into the studio one day, and I see him in the lobby, and he's a real humble guy. A lot of people don't know who he is, and I took 2 steps. I'm like, Lionel? He was like, hey. And I just started talking because I was such a fan and he couldn't believe it. Met the producers and everything. Now these white people that have to meet with them to get the gig to do this video, they're like, thinking they don't know what, they don't understand the coach, they don't know what. And then here go me, Mr. Buffer, who comes in and I introduced Lionel to everybody at the, and I pretty much secured the deal. And 3 days later, we shooting. And on that day, I wore many hats that day, but I did do the, I did do the photography, things like that. And after that, I talked with Gerald for a minute or whatever. And yeah, I used to go on the road sometimes with him, with Gerald Levert. Yep.
So did you ever think about, okay, I'm doing photography, can I move into becoming a video director like Lionel C. Martin?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, what I learned from working on, we did videos, like I casted Simpin' Ain't Easy for Boys to Men, that actually was on the White Man Can't Jump soundtrack. Okay. So I remember, you submit your invoice, and I think they paid us on like a net 45, and I just remember getting 2 checks, you know what I mean? I remember getting 2 checks. I was like, woohoo, until, it was time to pay taxes on it. I was like, oh. But it was, like I said, it was interesting, but I just happened to be, always had to get the gab. And I used to read a lot of books too. And I remember, and always listen to quotes and things that people would say. And it was like, so I would always stay stored with information so that if I did meet somebody, if I had 15 seconds or 25 seconds, I was going to press the living hell out of them. Wow. So that way, when I went to walk with it, hey, come back here, come back here, little guy, come here, Yeah, I always was blessed with that gift, and I thank God I never lost it.
How did your relationship with Wanya and Boyz II Men over the years? Then, what when with all this stuff happening, how were you still keeping in touch? And
well, before cell phones and stuff like that, whenever he was home, I would get a call. He would call me. We'd hang out a little bit, or I call him if I was around. And stuff like that. But you got to remember this too. I was cool with Mike too, so yeah. So Mike, his mother, his brother, and I actually too, a large part of how I got into the sports world was Mike McCarry's cousin, Mike Harris. I went to work with him. Now I seen Mike Harris as the guy who hooked Brandy and Kobe up for the prom.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw Mike on BET with Kobe Bryant. He was a rookie with the Lakers. He's a little young kid or whatever. And I was at the Vibe Music Seminar, and I think that was Vibe Music Seminar 96. Usher just came out with You Make Me Want to Lead the One I'm With. Now Usher's on the brink, about to be a star. And he comes out, walks the runway, does this crazy little glide across the stage. He come out of sneakers, crowd goes crazy, and I'm going to the back. And as I look through the curtain, I see Big Mike, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta introduce myself. Then this kid bumps into me. You see my sneakers? I'm like, Usher, your sneakers are over there. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, so I go in, and I'm like, yo, you Big Mike Harris. I'm like, Mike's cousin from Boyz II Men. I'm like, this. So I'm back there, whatever, Usher's looming around in the back, and everything. And then I see Tretch from Naughty by Nature, and I'm like, oh, because I got a funny story with Naughty by Nature too.
Okay.
Because I was on the brink of them is when I met them. I actually met them when they were with Queen Latifah, when Tupac was with Digital Underground. It was a show. They was on a tour with Public Enemy. And I seen them on stage because they were like hype men at the time, with Queen Latifah. Mm. But what they was wearing made them really stand out, because I like, damn, I wouldn't be one to court up dark alley with them guys. We go to the bathroom in the mezzanine of the Spectrum, and we like, oh snap, wasn't y'all just on stage? So everybody wait till they wash their hands and be like, yeah. And they tell us about, we got this song coming out. I at the time was still kind of like shook, like kind of scared, like Tretch was real, he looked like he break, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, Benny looked like Mike Tyson. I was like, oh man. So I just remember them saying, like, we got this song about to drop, and I couldn't remember if the song was called Naughty by Nature or the song was called OPP. But later on, as time would tell, I remember it coming on the radio. I'm like, hey, this that group OPP. They're like, no, the group is called Naughty by Nature. The song is called Naughty by Nature. The group is called OPP. They're from North Jersey, But they, yeah, man, it was like crazy. So I met Tretch then. I met Naughty by Nature then. Mm-hmm. After the celebrity basketball game, we run into each other and we talking about that. Now this time, OPP and blew up worldwide, and it's the biggest record ever, the biggest group on the planet. Tretch driving a 4Runner, we out in the back of, after one of Charlie Mack's famous celebrity basketball games, and we just chopping it up and everything like that. Tretch gave me his information, Vinny gave me his information, KG gave me his information. KG was actually going to sign one of my acts too, because Vinny said, look, KG's got this production thing with Motown, you got to get with him, and took us over, introduced us again, and but we forged the bond that day,
Wow.
with Tretch. We was like the one, and I just remember something too that I never forget that day. That day I met Ecstasy from Houdini, God rest his soul, because it's a picture of me and him. I'm looking all young and he looking all young and everything. And I just remember at that time, Houdini had no hit record out or nothing like that. But the way that Ecstasy carried himself, they were mobbing him. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
They were mobbing him because he still had that star, that aura, that image, and he was just cool out there signing autographs, taking pictures. And we talked, I mean, when we got done talking that day, I think the sun went down, it was like bright in the afternoon, But, like I said, so listen, I was nonstop networking and hustling. I've always found a way, always found a gig, always found something to get me to the next. And now I know I went somewhere with that because we was talking about Naughty, but no, back to the Vibe Music Seminar.
Yeah.
So Fred sees me and he's like, Troy, and he dapped me up to hug me, whatever. So I stopped, took a picture, and then, Usher wanted to get in the picture and everything. And I'm like, oh, okay, kid, come on, get the picture, But I remember I told Usher, I said, I see what you're doing. And I'm looking at the progression from that video, You Make Me Leave on a Whip, and what he's doing out there. And I was like, I know you about to blow up. I know this is it for you. You know what I mean? And I got over, I met with, when Mike saw the way that Tretch responded to me, he was like, said, well, I know. I said, man, I'm from Philly, man, this, that, and the other. So he was like, look, I got to run, because he went with Usher to the Apollo. He said, I got to run. He said, but I want you to call me. He said, I'll be back in my office on Monday. Come by. I went up working for Big Mike for 2 years, man. We traveled all over the country. I mean, worked with so many athletes, so many artists, music artists and stuff like that. That's where I actually met SWV at, through him. You told me you got your cousin Christian Okoye.
The night did my fit.
Yeah, well, we know Jerome Bettis with the bus with the Steelers.
Yeah, the Steelers.
I did work with all types of people through Big Mike.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.
I begin to